Hello and welcome to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. It has been a while since I've been on the show, so I'm happy to be back. It's been a lot happening, a lot of craziness. Some of you saw on our socials that DJ Varun and I were all together, but happy to be back. DJ, how are you doing, sir? Long time no speak on the podcast, but it was great. It felt like we were just hanging out together last week.
Yeah, it was brilliant. For those of you who don't know, Ashwin has just got married. So congratulations, man. It
Thank you,
was
sir.
brilliant seeing you and Varun in person celebrating the event. So yeah,
Yeah,
very
it's been
happy.
great. It's been a lot of fun. So hopefully a good enough excuse to have been absent from the show for I guess it's been 3 weeks or so. But happy to
Yeah,
be
we
back.
got a few questions say where the episode was. I was like, I think we're doing something a little bit more important. Although this is very important to us. We would
Very, very
attending
important.
another important event. So
Absolutely. So let's call them equal parts important. But yeah, man, happy to be back. It's been an interesting time in the world of cricket because on the one hand, I have India West Indies games going on in my time zone. Gosh, the tests were going on when you were, in the US during the time zone, and they were not the most exciting kind of cricket. And I know you all talked that, and you did the debrief with the Caribbean Cricket Podcast guys. And now, although the ODIs have started, the Ashes are going on, it still feels like a little bit of a lull in kind of the cricket in the cricket world. But still, there's enough to talk about. So, DJ, we're going to cover today a little bit about the West Indies India ODIs, the Ashes, some big news coming out of the Ashes with a retirement. So if you have missed that, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then some stuff happening in the world of women's cricket, some drama there too, lots of interesting stuff. So why don't we jump in and start with the ODIs, right? So Test series finished. India dropped points, which I know you don't like as an expression, but dropped a couple of points against the West Indies. I'm still calling it that. And then we came to the ODIs, and the first ODI was almost shockingly boring. I remember texting you guys at that point, being like, "What is happening? Like this is in my time zone. I can watch most of it. It's great for me." And it just seems like the most uneventful, boring ODI. And then second ODI came around. We made two changes in the team that are kind of long overdue, if you will, in terms of future planning, future proofing, just to learn. And we fell apart. So why don't we start with why don't we start with kind of your overall opinion on this series, right? Like we're not playing against a side who's not going to be in the World Cup. Why are we playing three ODIs? Why are we playing three T20s coming out of it? Like what's actually happening?
aren't we playing five T20s?
Five T20s,
I was
correct?
surprised as well to learn that
Three in the West
actually.
Indies, two in the US. Yeah. So
Yeah, in a year where there's no T20 World Cup as well. But anyway,
yeah,
I guess we'll find out. Yeah, there isn't much context to this ODI series other than for India to test out its youngsters, which is what I think Rahul Dravid said as well, which is what we said as well on the preview with Mashal from the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. And it's been a weird series. I mean, it's been pretty one-sided game so far, and the scoreline is 1-1. What is interesting is the third ODI, which will be the decider between these two teams. What combination is India going to go in with? And as you mentioned, the two big names, Rohit and Virat, they didn't really want to come into bat in the first ODI as well. Rohit was kind of forced to come into bat towards the end.
yeah. So what happened? What actually happened there? Right? Like what is the objective of playing an ODI series in a ODI World Cup year? Yes, fine. They got out for 114. You're thinking we'll chase this pretty easily, and we'll come back and talk about the bowlers. But you have Kishan and Gill opening, then you have Sky play at three, Hardik at four. Where was Rohit ended up walking in at seven? I think Virat didn't even bat. Like either play them and play. And I know you and Mash will talk this, so sorry if I'm being repetitive. But either play them and try to test out your 11, your combination for the World Cup. How does it gel? How does it work? Or try to test new guys. But like, what is the point? What's the point? I'm flabbergasted.
Uh, uh, your guess is as good as mine, but what it was an opportunity was for some people to stand up and be counted, particularly in the second game. In the first game, you can kind of forgive it because you're only chasing 120. In the second game, in a World Cup year, where the lineup is uncertain, where you're fighting for spots, the two guys, and it's in the name of the show, Surya and Samson. And oddly enough, Surya was wearing Samson's shirt throughout. Do you know what's gone on there?
Yeah, I didn't know. I read about that a little bit, and I was just confused. And I just, yeah,
Has
I know
Surya seems to have put on a bit of muscle.
muscle.
He's
Is that
become
what you're saying?
bigger.
Okay.
I don't know. He's become a bit bigger,
But
hasn't he?
but with Samson shirts looser, then is that what we're saying? Samson bigger than Surya?
I don't know. Maybe he was like trying to trick the selectors by wearing Samson's shirt and playing a horrible shot and getting out and being like, "Oh, look at Samson's got out." So, like, maybe they should give Surya a shot.
You can actually tell. I don't know.
3D
I know
chess.
across the pond at the Ashes, they did purposely wear each other's jerseys. I don't know if you caught that as part of the Alzheimer's and dementia
Yeah.
awareness, which is a great initiative. And then on this side, we're unclear if it was done, with good reason or just as an error or as a joke. But
Maybe his
the
jerseys got lost, or I don't know. Maybe Surya felt his shirt was a bit tight or something.
none
I
of
don't know.
that stuff is out of the question. But okay, I want to come back to Sky and Samson really quick. Let's just talk about the West Indies getting out for 114. Nothing to write home about in the chase. Kishan looked really good opening and then basically got the job done. But let's talk about 3 overs, 2 maidens, 4 for 6. It like it it sounds like a joke, honestly. But how does Kuldeep Yadav keep coming back into the side after extended absences, keep delivering, and then keep getting dropped out of there? Like what? The poor guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but also the wickets that were taken at the tail end, right? Like the issue with that is that they're not going to be taken seriously.
He took Shea Hope, with who's their best
Yeah, who's
batsman,
yeah, yeah.
who's
And who's had got
really
a
good.
crazy average of
His
like
stats are incredible.
yeah, but is that because he's been playing Zimbabwe and like in all the qualifying games he scores like hundreds of
Yeah.
runs or
Are you
oh
thinking of
what's the deal?
Bamber?
No,
No,
we're not going there. We're not
okay,
going
all
there.
right, all right.
But Shea Hope averages like 60 since the last. He's got the highest average of all batters since the last World Cup, and I wondered how that is because the West Indies are not now qualifying for the next World Cup. So I don't know who he's been playing to smash all these runs, but he got runs in the first game and in the second game. Kuldeep did get him, but then I think there were two or three that were just like bunnies caught in the headlights, completely clueless as to what Kulu was doing. It was good to
So,
watch him though. It's good fun actually.
so really quick, Shea Hope averages 50.8. He's made the most of his runs are actually against India, adding
Oh, that
49.
explains it.
49. Then against Bangladesh, an average of 70. Then Sri Lanka, average of 57. Afghanistan, average 91. So he's playing a lot of subcontinent teams. But
Is
again,
that what we're calling them? Subcontinent teams?
why? They're not the
Like,
West.
yeah, they are, but they some of them are substandard subcontinent
There
teams.
you go. Are you talking about India? Who are you talking about?
No, India is
Ah,
like obviously
anyway.
not.
So we'll come back from Cheo, but like credit to Ravindra Jadeja too. Just keeps showing up, keeps picking up wickets. 3 for 37 in his 6 overs. I mean, it's a little baffling actually that Kuldeep had 4 wickets and only bowled 3 overs, but obviously he's
Yeah.
been cleaning up the tail. So nothing to write home about. But let's come to that second game, right? And two key changes, right? First, sort of unexpectedly to me, Hardik walked out of the toss. Said Rohit and Virat didn't really bat. I mean, Rohit came out at the end because he had to, but didn't really bat, and then got dropped for the second game. So some questions on why were they selected for the first game at all, and then who came in? Sanju Samson came in to end up batting at 3, and then Akshar Patel came in, ended up batting at 4, and neither delivered. So just walk me through this, right? Because following the game, and there was some rain interruptions and stuff, but it was 16 overs, 90 for 0 before Gill got out. So Gill made 34, which is fine. It's not phenomenal. It's not bad, but not
But
great
we've
either.
already started seeing questions about Gill's
So
form.
I know you've been asking that, but let's come back to that. And then so from 90 for 1, the sudden next thing I looked, I realized it's 181 all out. So
Yeah.
so like are you so reliant on Rohit and Kohli either as batters or as presences in the side? Was it just one bad day and we should just forget about it and we will come back and win the third ODI by 100 runs again and put this to rest? Like, yeah,
So there's a few things, right? Actually, the pitch was quite bouncy. It was
mm-hmm.
quick, and it was turning, which is an unusual combination, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you either expect it to turn and have be slow and low, or it's like fast and bouncy. This seemed to be doing both because if you recall, there was a lot of like horizontal bat stuff from Gill as well as Kishan hitting over, pulling, cutting for six. Um, so I think the pitch was made to look better than it was. It was a tough pitch to bat on. I think. I mean, yeah,
Let me ask you about Kishan then. Back-to-back 50s, got played in the test matches,
yeah.
nothing, not immediately breaking the door down in test cricket, but how do you feel about, like, I think there's videos now surfacing about Rahul in the nets, a year back to coming close back to fitness, of course, Bumrah. So as you think about an 11, is how high up is Kishan in that kind of
Ooh.
ranking for you from an ODI standpoint? It's a very difficult question.
So it's a backup opener slot. I think that he's competing for. I don't think so. I was interested in seeing whether in this series Kishan would bat lower down the order and
Mm-hmm.
challenge for that middle order spot. where I think there's three people that are in the vying for the keeper spot in the absence of Rishabh Pant, who by the way is also back deadlifting in
Hmm.
terms of videos. He's back training at the NCA, and
Hmm.
he's been giving our boy Kishan some tips. I don't know if you heard the last show, but
And the bat.
and the bat, yeah, it was just like the one-handed sixes was just. I mean, no one else can teach you that, right? Like who else to learn from?
But
But
just on Kishan,
yeah,
so if you go Rohit, Gill, Kohli, I'm just going through the certainties if you will, but then Hardik, and then you go Sky.
well,
Uh,
so that's it, right? Like, is Sky a certainty?
but no, no. So let's say those four are certainties. Then you go through
Yeah,
Sky, Ayer, and some of these other types of options. Every single name I just named was a right hander. So until Jadeja, we have no lefty, and so that's
yeah,
the only place I think in a
yeah.
World Cup year that Kishan potentially ekes out
And that's why I was wondering whether he would bat down the order,
something.
and we didn't bat him down the order.
You don't think they're
Instead,
messing with Rohit and Gill as at the top?
I don't think they're so. Given Rohit's fitness history
Mm,
and the hard ground in India, if he's injured, I think Kishan will then slot in there.
okay.
So I don't think they're seeing him as a middle order option. They would rather use someone like a Jadeja, I think, to go up the order if he needs to, which was shown by them batting Akshar at four. I think because this would have been the series to check out whether Kishan could bat in that number five, effectively number five slot, right? Because
Yeah.
there'd be a batter or a Samson, somebody batting at four.
Let's talk about his opening partner then. And I know you've raised some questions and you're already
Mm.
thinking about it. But so two test matches, Shubman Gill made a combined 45 runs in his three innings, right? Average of 22.5, I guess that is, and was the lowest scorer for Team India, behind Ashwin, behind Jadeja, like the lowest run scorer for Team India. And then in the
Average
ODIs,
of, so he got out twice, yeah, in
he got
the.
out twice, but only made 45 runs total.
Mm,
But again, lowest run scorer for India, right behind Ashwin. Even obviously, he's
mm.
batting pretty good. And then, yeah, both ODIs, he made a combined 41, seven in the first, 34 in the second. Are you starting to ask questions, or has he gotten to the point with the year he's had in the IPL and the he's allowed to have one bad series before the World
I'd rather have him have his dip now than
Cup?
during the World Cup. I think he
Spoken like
for
a
the
true
World Cup.
Indian fan.
Better now than in the ICC knockout phase of the World Cup, like the semi final. No, he looked, and I think there was a comment made in the second ODI that he looked bored when he got out in this game.
Mm,
Like there was no need for him to hit that shot, right?
yeah, yeah,
He was just going over the top. It was a good catch. The West Indies fielded much better in the second ODI as well. That was a good catch, I thought, by Alzari Joseph. Yeah, he didn't do himself any favors with that, but I don't think these guys die wondering. So
yeah.
I don't mind it. I think he's a class player. I don't think he's under pressure yet for his spot. I think the year he's had, and given that I think the final is at the Narendra Modi Stadium in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, and I think the India Pakistan game is there as well, which we'll come to later. I
Yeah.
think it'd be a brave man to drop Shubman Gill when India are playing games in Ahmedabad.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And so before we wrap up about the ODI series and talk about some other topics, Rahul Dravid, right? We've talked about him a little on the show. He's let's say struggled a little in his early-ish run as a coach. But he came out and said he defended the decision. He said we have to experiment. This is the only time. He basically said these are the only matches we had to try stuff before the Asia Cup, and then Asia Cup goes straight into World Cup. I think there's a couple of Ireland games or something somewhere in between. But yeah, what is your take on kind of tactical thinking? And obviously he had to defend the decision to do some rotations, but yeah, what's your thinking on Dravid as a coach?
So I don't care about the Akshar batting at four and all. That's just stuff. What we need to lock down, and we started this podcast in 2018. How many episodes did we talk about number four in that lineup?
Who have we gone through? We went through from Shankar to Rayudu to like we
To
went through.
Dhoni. Dhoni batted at four for a while
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, yeah,
To
yeah,
saying Kohli should drop down for the good of the team. To KL
Just saying
Rahul
Rahul should
eventually
drop down
batting
for the good.
there.
Yeah, crazy.
And then moving up to open. To Pant coming into bat at number four in the World Cup semi final.
Yeah.
This is what we talked through, right?
Hmm.
The things we need to lock down are our wicket keeper, right? And our batters, basically. Like, are we taking Sky and Samson to the World Cup. Are we doing that? We don't know because Ayer's on his way back, Rahul's on his way back. They are not here, so we don't have a full squad to be able to pick from and compare all of these people together, which we had the last time round
Hmm.
because the World Cup was in summer. So it's a bit odd, and I don't mind the experimentation. I think the real questions are around Surya, Samson, and the wicket keeping slot. I don't know what the answers are to that. So you tell me who's keeping wicket in the World Cup for India.
If you're the chief selector and you have to announce the World Cup squad or World Cup 11 today,
Hmm.
does Sky make it?
With everybody fit?
Yeah. Well,
But
not
you mean today? Do you mean today or assume everyone's fit?
assume most likely scenario on fitness. So no Rishabh Pant, but Shreyas Iyer,
Okay.
KL
Yeah.
Rahul look like they're back. Yeah.
He wouldn't make the 11th for me. He wouldn't make the 11th for me. He would make the squad probably.
Yeah.
But I'll ask you the same question on Sanju Samson.
0%. Absolutely not.
Oh my God, no, you're gonna get a torrent of
He
abuse
doesn't
now.
make the 11. He doesn't. He hasn't.
The 11 and the squad.
I can see him working his way into the squad, right? Because there's a world where some balance of Rahul and Kishan, and then keeping abilities may come into play, spinning tracks, etc. There's a world where he adds value there. Like you have to think of the keeper as an all-rounder, not a batter who can keep. And there's a world where Samson is a better keeper than Rahul.
So and so our number one keeper batter at the moment is KL Rahul, batting five. Say
At
a year
4,
four,
yeah,
Rahul five.
a
Is
year
that our
4, Rahul
best
5.
4-5?
I think so.
I actually don't disagree with that. I think it's
I
hard
think
to
so.
disagree with that.
Man, they should just hire us as selectors. We got it done.
Yeah, I mean, I told them to move Rohit up to open the batting 0 for 0. Look at what he's done for the boy's career. Captain one guy. Huh?
That is it, Craig. That's unbelievable. Um, yeah, I mean, I think so. So one more hypothetical before we take a quick break. One ODI left against the West Indies. Samson comes out and makes 100. Now what? Do you give him? Do you say he'll at least make Asia Cup and he needs to demonstrate continued performance? Because it's not out of the question, right? Samson has the raw talent. He has the ability. He's shown results. Like, yeah. What do you do if that happens next week?
Hmm. Wow.
Actually, let me make it even harder for you. Samson comes out and makes 78.
Hmm.
Because 100, then you say, okay, it's hard to drop the guy. Let's remember. He makes like a decent 78 as India makes 340.
I think it's still KL, man. I think KL's more consistent, more reliable, can hit as big. We don't play baseball. If you were asking me, a team that
Mm-hmm.
played baseball went hard from day one. We've never played that kind of ODI cricket.
Mm-hmm.
And KL just fits in better. And I don't think you need that good a keeper. KL's been doing okay, but it's his fitness. Is he match fit enough? Will he? We've got the Asia Cup and we've got the Australia. I think 5 ODIs, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to be match fit enough to make it through the World Cup? I suspect KL will. He's just he's good, man. Like despite all the hate he gets, he's good at that. He's been good at that number five. I don't know whether he can filter his stats at number five in ODIs. See, I'm putting you on the spot, but I want to bet that his stats are pretty good at number five against good
So,
teams.
I mean, I can't do number 5 against good teams, to be clear.
Okay, yeah.
He's played 52 innings for India. His average is 45.1. 23 of those were opening. He averages 43, strike rate about 80. But at 5, he averages 53 and strikes at about 100. So he's shown
That's
his ability.
that's like Yuvraj-esque. That's Yuvraj-esque figures, man. And the last time we won a World Cup,
Can I get some credit for finding that as fast as I
that
did?
was really good. I have to
That was
say.
very good.
Who his runs come against at five? We can't do that. Stats
Well,
guru.
you can do who of his runs come against, or at what batting
Or
position.
at what
Not
position?
quite
Okay.
sophisticated
I
enough to
mean,
say to drill again. Yeah.
no, but those are Yuvraj-esque numbers, right? Like average over 53, strike rate over 100. I mean, and if he's keeping wicket, he's an all rounder then.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Kale's pretty balanced to be honest across the board, but again, not by batting position, but pretty good record against New Zealand, against West Indies, Zimbabwe. Is not as good against Australia. So anyway, um,
mm,
yeah, I mean, Yuvraj Singh's average 36, and at 5 he averaged 39 at a strike rate of 87. Granted,
yeah, different
lower
era.
sample size,
Yeah.
different era and all. So anyway, Nothing like it. I
Nice.
think we will get to talk Asia Cup, World Cup
See, we're
soon.
getting excited about this World Cup,
It's great.
despite our best efforts not to.
Despite, yeah, dude, this is why we're here. This is what we do. TJ, we're going to take a really quick break. We'll come back and talk about some women's cricket and cricket from the rest of the world. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I want to talk a little bit about the Ashes, but where at the time of recording this, there's one day left in the series. We are pretty phenomenally poised actually in this fifth Test match. So Australia have retained the series. Some of it was because of the rain, etc. All the discussion, and you guys are tired of hearing about it from us. However, that fifth Test match, Australia was set 398, I think, 390 plus to win, and they got to day four. It stumps on day four thanks to some rain at 135 for zero. And so coming into day five, I mean, let me start by saying, DJ, in a world of 3 day test matches and discussion, remember 2 years ago we were saying should all tests become 4 day and stuff. Majority, I think all the tests have gone to day five, and at least three of them have gone into day five with, to use the commentator's cliche, all four results still possible. Right? So A, let me ask you for a prediction. If you got a clear day, also it's at the Oval, right? Can you look outside? Are you expecting rain tomorrow?
It's been raining all day today. In fact, the game I was supposed to play today got rained out. I mean, I drove only 2 hours to get there. I got there late because I took the wrong exit, so that was
two
good as well.
hours, and then it got rained
Yeah,
out.
I took the wrong exit, so I went to another town and then came back.
Amazing.
Our openers actually put on 135 in like 14 overs. So the opposition, when the rain came down, said, "I don't think we should restart
It's
because
not
the
safe. It's not
it's
safe.
not. Yeah, it's a bit wet." So
You guys have
yeah,
covers and stuff and ground
yeah,
cover?
there were covers and everything. But I mean, it was their ground, right? So we were playing away.
Oh, yeah.
It was 2 hours away, and now just like okay, I don't see us restarting. So we spent the afternoon in one of the watering holes around the pub. So that was
Nice.
pleasant.
So let's talk
Although
about
I,
going
di- I
into day
didn't,
five.
I had to
Yeah.
drive back. So
Yeah,
anyway,
of course. Well said. Good save. Uh, did call it up to 90 overs. Do you think Australia gets it done? Do you think, on a day five pitch, even though this pitch seems pretty flat, you still back the bowling side on day five to take 10 wickets more than you back the batting side on most cases? But 250 is not that much, especially Khawaja has been absolutely outstanding. Australia's best batter all series, I would say. And Warner has got a lot of starts, but finally found form and converted and is not out at 58. Do you think Australia gets it done and like cements their, because winning 2-1 because of rain, or winning or drawing 2-2 and keeping the Ashes is a very different result to winning 3-1.
so I'm going to make a prediction,
Yeah.
which is that Australia will get the job done, and it's it's because of the memories of KL Rahul and Rishabh Pant smashing them everywhere in the England versus India Test match a few years ago. The Oval's a good pitch. The Oval's always been a good pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Even when India played, when India played England at the Oval in 21, they were chasing something over 300, but they were 100 for no loss before the Lord came and took some wickets. It's a good track. Australia's strong batting lineup. Moeen Ali is injured.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that's stacked against this England side.
Yeah.
Unless, and this is the only caveat I can give you, it's a London crowd. It's Stuart Broad's last game. He's been their best bowler throughout the series. If he can conjure up some magic, and Mark Wood can bowl 90 plus miles per hour, he bowled like 3 overs today, which was weird. I don't know whether there's explanation for that or not.
I think the commentators thought he was waiting. They were waiting for the ball to get some reverse because there was a lot of
Okay.
spin early, so they were trying to get Joe Root overs in. But anyway,
Yeah, but Root is decent, but he's not
he's not
a frontline spinner, right? Like other than in Ahmedabad on day two. But I actually think that this Australian team have a point to prove
Mm-hmm.
because the way the English press and players particularly, and I found it very odd. We're going on about that this is a hollow
Yeah.
victory, and including Broad and
But also, do you love now, by the way, that it like poetically it started raining because all of the internet was like, well, Joe Root wants to play till 10 p.m. If it stops,
yeah,
let's come
well,
back at 7 p.m. and bring it. Come on, now does
yeah,
Australia get
what a
it?
ridiculous comment to make, right? Like you've been saved a million times by the rain,
Yeah.
including against India in the first Test match at Nottingham, where we went
Yeah.
needed 140 runs to win on the last day, and the entire day was rained out. I remember watching that game. I watched day 4, and day 5 was completely rained out. Pujara was batting, and India were in a position to win. But there was no chat about, oh, let's just add a reserve day at the end of this because we should have a result. No,
No,
that's not how it goes.
that point decides
Anyway,
the match.
but the whole narrative and the momentum after England won that test match has become a case of, oh, it's all baseball. We're just going to go and play for the win. Oh, this is like whatever, like they've retained the Ashes. Nobody cares about it. I think a 3-1 win for this Australian team is important
Yeah.
to drive home the fact that they've played better than England in those first two test matches, right? And they won those two tests. It's on it, the scoreboard doesn't lie. It's 2-1.
I
But
think
2-2
yeah.
will be a hollow Ashes retention for them.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I think is
Because
the
you've
perfect
retained it on a
scenario for me.
technicality. Yeah.
Here's the perfect scenario for me. Australia need like 65 more runs. They have 8 wickets or something to spare, and it starts raining, and England gets the draw. So England's then celebrating the rain to save a draw and all. Australia still win 2-1. They deserve it, and then each side gets to say, "Listen, we would have won one game
Yeah.
if not for the rain." So England's complete like the rain is what made us lose the Ashes gets destroyed
Yeah, I
completely
mean, there have been
because Australia
multiple
didn't
times
perform.
India have been thwarted by rain in Joburg in '97, in Sydney when Rishabh Pant scored that 169. We lifted the trophy after a drawn game because of rain.
Yeah,
But it's only the team that's losing that complains, right? Like
yeah,
India saved a match because of bad light and rain at Lords as well when Dhoni made 90. I'm sure you remember that because it was a great knock,
of
right?
course.
In 2007. But anyway, I think 3-1, and I'm predicting they're going to go 3-1. I think Manas needs to take some revenge for the Bales incident. Did you watch
That
that?
was unbelievable. And they tried it again with Khwaja, and he was just unfazed. Nothing
Is it
happened.
is it a coincidence, or do you think there was something that happened?
I'm sure he was just thinking about it, right? Like Marnus, that's what, like at this highest level, when you're in this battle of, wits, and you're just playing at the highest possible level, any little thing to rattle the batsman can work sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, for the listeners who haven't watched the incident, please go back and watch it. Basically, what happens is Manas is in like he's in the zone. Like I think it's like 9 of 80 balls or something. I don't know how many he made. He made nothing.
Hmm.
And then Stuart Broad just goes and flips the Bales around.
Like just the left to the right and the right to the
Yeah,
left. That's
and
it. Doesn't do anything.
it's legal. There's nothing else. And the next ball, Manas next one, and he's gone. And it was just, I mean, I think he was pretty upset by that. Plus, I mean, we haven't talked about Stuart Broad's
So now let's look at
announcement.
600 wickets. And he's decided, and very, very, very smart PR team at the end of day 3 says, "Oh, I just kind of thought about it and made a decision." Of course, you didn't. The end of day 3, you've given yourself and Sky Sports 2 full days of montages and tributes and this and that. And of course, it's the writing's on the wall that there's an empty spot in the commentary box waiting for him. But DJ, I want to ask you to talk about Stuart Broad retiring because to be totally transparent, I don't have a lot of nice things to say. So I would rather you say it because most of what I would say is pretty negative. I'm not a fan. But anyway, you got to give credit for 600 wickets and a great career.
Yeah, see, I mean, you don't have to be a fan to respect his achievements. Uh, I don't think you can say he's a fan, but he's somebody you love to hate, and the game likes characters like that,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like Virat before he maybe sobered up a bit.
Hmm.
I mean, he's basically if he's annoying and he's a git, he's our git, and that's what the English would. That's why the English would love him. That's why they would love Jimmy as well, right? And that's why
I
we
struggle with
love
that call
King.
a little because I don't. I think Stewart has done some stuff that's pretty significantly worse than Virat. But actually, this might
Yeah,
be my bias, so I'll accept it.
no, fair enough. And I mean, he's copped it for that, and he's taken it, and
Yeah.
he's come back. And I think he mentioned it in one of his press conferences. He mentioned about the Yuvraj saying 6 sixes. He was 2021 when that happened,
Hmm.
and he bounced back from that. He said it taught me to have a routine before every ball I bowled. Obviously, that went away when Bumrah scored 35 off his over as well, or 37 off his over, or something crazy
Hmm.
in 21. But uh, he's had some incredible spells. 8 for 15 is one of them that I remember with the Ben Stokes catch in the Ashes. He had an incredible spell at Nottingham against India, with including a hat trick, which was slightly dubious because Harbhajan edged it onto his pad. But guess what? India didn't like DRS then, so we couldn't
Hmm.
do anything.
So it didn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, so but he got the and he's just one of those characters. Once he got on a roll, and I was reading somewhere on Twitter that it was like one of those like Pakistani bowlers. When they get on a roll, they really get on a roll, and they will just run through an entire side.
Hmm.
And yeah, it felt a little bit like that. I mean, he's 36, I think. Um he's a year younger than me, so I've pretty much watched him play his entire career, and it's yeah, it feels a little bit strange that he's retired, but I mean, good luck to him, and like he'll do well. I think he's pretty articulate. He thinks about the game a lot. I mean, even people like Ponting find a career in commentary despite what they did on the field, sometimes with catches and stuff, right? So we've got to move past that. Everybody matures. He's let's put it this way: he's the Draco Malfoy of cricket, right?
They actually look us alike too, don't
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, every hero needs a villain, and a pantomime villain. What I thought was a particularly nice gesture was the Aussies giving him a guard of honor
they? Hmm.
in his last game. And I think, well, also, did you see Steve Smith inviting Jimmy Anderson to walk through the guard of honor as well? That was
Really, I didn't.
classic shithousery right at the end.
Amazing. तू भी आजा भाई, तू भी
Yeah,
आजा.
he's like, aren't you going as well? But what do you think about that? Isn't that going to raise the question?
I think Jimmy's like trying to find the right time, and I think he thinks he's got a little bit left in him. But I think, yeah, it's weird to think about Anderson without Broad, right? Like it's just one of those partnerships that you think about batting partnerships more than you do bowling, but this is a bowling partnership. You think they've played cricket without each other. They've had series where one got selected, the other didn't, and it just seems strange to be watching Anderson bowl without Broad, and I think Broad just made the decision to retire at his peak, and I think Jimmy's had a bad enough series, not or like not a bad, but a low impact enough series that he probably wants to come back at least for his one standalone test or something.
But that's going to be in India now. Then I think they next play in India, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's looked at the calendar and figured it out because he wants to retire on a high. So
Also, do you think the whole retirement thing threw Broad off his game today? Because he had Warner, right? Like if you ever had a bunny to
hmm.
take on your last time
And
bowling,
I both think that, and I think you've got him out 17 times or whatever it is. Like you can't expect like somebody else has to try to get Warner out at some point, right? Like, um, but hey, Stuart Broad was not out at the end of his career, so he was,
and last ball he ever played was a six.
and there you go. So anyway, you were kinder than I was. Good tribute. I was thinking about the fact that his own father had to give him demerit points for a send off, and that whole drama that happened a few years ago. And then he threw the ball at I think it was Zulkarnain Haider or somebody like from the Pakistan team and injured him and got 50 fines. And I, my memories of Stuart
The
Broad are
celeb repeal. That's the other thing.
the celeb repeal is and like they're not walking after the edge, which is of course the all-time like
The
the biggest
all-time
edge
spirit
thing
of
we've
cricket.
ever seen. But
Yeah.
anyway, congratulations to Stuart Broad. Congratulations to the England team. They, exciting, and we'll see how day 5 goes. But DJ, before we wrap up, we have to talk about coming back to Team India, but this time talking about the women's team.
And since we're talking about demerit points, right?
Since we're talking about misbehaving and bad behavior and stuff, do you want to quickly run our listeners through what happened in the drama with Harmanpreet Kaur versus Bangladesh? The series ended up tied at 1-1 with the third match tied, and she had some drama about padding, and then the trophy raising ceremony, and has now been banned for a couple of matches. So first, before you walk through the drama, if this was Rohit or Kohli, we would have scheduled a quick, shitty little 2 match series against Afghanistan or somebody to get her 2 match ban done
Yeah.
before the. But so maybe
But she's missing the Asian Games
so
quarters and
missing
semis
the
now
Asian Games.
because of
Why
it.
don't we schedule these 2 matches somewhere against some team, get her ban out of the system, and then she's fine by the Asian Games. Anyway, but talk us through what happened.
Yeah, I mean, she got dismissed. Obviously, I think this is the culmination of a number of events. I think over time, she was frustrated by the quality of umpiring. I don't think the decision itself was wrong because I think she did hit it onto her pad, which then ballooned to slip and was caught.
Hmm.
But she was obviously frustrated with herself or being given out
One
or
sec, was she
whatever.
given out LBW?
I think she thought she was given out LBW, but I think they later clarified that she was given out caught because I
But
think she did hit it and it went to
yeah,
slip.
she did hit it and it went up. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think she was entirely right in that.
Hmm.
In that, um, but then she demolished the stumps, and the last time we saw that also happened in Bangladesh when you remember Shakib just like kicked the stumps over and stuff. There's a clip of I must have sent we must have sent it to each other
Hmm.
at some point.
Hmm.
So there seems to be like a thing, but then it was quite petulant, like, and that's pretty poor from someone who's of her stature to say call the umpires in the team photo of the Bangladesh team, and that led the opposition to just walk out from there because it's pretty petty, right? Like, and yeah, and I think even the Bangladesh captain said, yeah, it was fine until it was on the field, but then when you go off the field, it becomes like really not acceptable.
Hmm.
And my players look up to Harman, and they do. I mean, like,
Hmm.
she's genuinely like a trailblazer for the game. Like her 170 odd against 171 not out against Australia, it changed the face of the women's game. In fact, the other time she got a demerit point was in that innings when she
Hmm.
threw her helmet down after getting to 100 because she was angry with, I think, Deepthi or somebody at the other end
Hmm.
for not running properly or something crazy. Um, but now she's been banned for these two games. It's a pretty poor look for Indian cricket. I have to say it's a backward step, and it's not great. It's yeah, if someone like a Kohli or Rohit would have done that, we would have had really strong words for that as well. I don't think I've ever seen a male international cricketer demolish the stumps. I think they've like swished over the bails before out of frustration and stuff, but to take the stumps out is that's pretty next level. And people get angry. Yeah, things
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But then to carry on after, I think that's where she crossed that line.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. Not a lot to add, but I think frustration happens. You're annoyed at decisions, whatever. Not acceptable, but fine. But to not let it go, a long time later, and still like point fingers at the umpires. I think that was where it crossed the line. So disappointed to see it happen, but and that's it does happen. It's the reality. Like I said, I'm hopeful they find a way to reverse the ban a little because
They're not going to appeal
timeline.
it. They've
Well,
just
they
come out and
can
said
apparently they missed the window
they
to
missed the
appeal.
timeline. And I think that was a conscious decision to let that lapse. I don't think there was any
No,
ground to
there was a
really.
lot of grounds, yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, disappointing to see, but hopefully, the rest of the squad steps up and she just waltzes back in after the first couple of games and finds some silverware for Team India in the Asia Cup or the Asian Games. Um, that's it, DJ. Good episode, fun to chat. It's going to be interesting to see what happens on day 5 of the Ashes. I think by the time we're on next,
What's your
Australia's
prediction?
I think Australia's going to do it. I just do. I think 398, I would have said, if I was Winviz, I would have said very heavily favoring England. But to go into day 5 at 135 for 0, it's suddenly 249 on day 5 is. Now, Australia lost 4 quick wickets in the first innings, right? So it can happen. You can absolutely
But
collapse.
is it when you get closer that you start believing? Like England were 65 away with 4 wickets left in the second test
Yeah,
at Lords with
yeah,
Stokes going nuts.
yeah.
That's when they fell.
Yeah, so it could absolutely fall apart. I think it's going to be a scintillating day 5, but I think Australia is going to get it done because Pat Cummins and his boys just want to. There's a huge difference between 3-1, retaining the Ashes 2-2, or even 2-1, and so they're going to want to get it done.
And can I just take one comment that's coming on YouTube as well? And I'll ask you this question. And maybe you can answer it in the context of your prediction of the ODI series and the T20 series. Raghav asks, we needed this, right? Like all the crazy Windies are a bad team and a minnow team. It was going to come back to us. Maybe we learn from this. What is your prediction for the rest of the tour?
Yeah, so I think on India will win the third ODI, right? I think they'll step up and figure it out. But 2-1 is an important lesson, an important learning, like dropped points in the test, if you will. Uh, and 2-1 in the ODI is very different to sweeping both test and ODI. So I agree with that on the lesson. I think the T20s are a whole different ballgame. I think the West Indies have kind of blown hot and cold over the years, but they're not long. They're relatively recent T20 World Cup champions. They know how that game is played. They play a lot of that format across the world in many of the leagues. So I think it's going to be a hard fought series in the T20s. I still think India will edge it out, but I'm going to call it 3-2.
2-1 and 3-2.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's it. All right. That brings us to a wrap. Thank you all for joining. If you were watching us on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. As always, at One Tip One Hand on all the socials. Send us a message. We'd love to hear from y'all. When we're back next week, we'll have some results from the T20s, and we are building up to the Asia Cup, and of course, then the World Cup later this year. This is the Edison's Legends Cricket Podcast. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next week.